Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is 9:43 on a Friday morning. So cheers, happy weekend. It's supposed to be a shitty weekend, I guess. Supposed to get some rain and snow, but it is what it is. So yeah, I've been knee deep ever since I did a show. I think it was maybe a couple of weeks ago now, or a week ago or so. I did a big show on my favorite boutique label, Mondo Macabra, and I've been. It was funny because I went to Bull Moose last. I think it was last weekend. Yeah, on Sunday, or maybe it was. It's kind of a blur. Time's kind of a blur. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. I went to Bull Moose and I picked up some more titles from Mondo Macabra. I haven't bought any newer films from them. I don't order movies online, so I just hadn't come across any. So I was really excited when I saw it had been probably 6 or 8 months since I had seen any Mono Macabre titles. Usually in the past, I have quite a few. I have a whole big stack of movies, and usually in the past, I've always come across those titles. And I'm at a point now. Anytime I come across a Mono Macabre title, I'll buy it up. I don't, no questions asked, because they're the best label, hands down. There's so many great labels out there, so many great companies, but there's something special about Mondo. And they just have the most bizarre and interesting movies that I've really have ever come across. And it runs the gamut. I mean, you have horror, you have Giallo, you know, um, sleazy kind of sex exploitation movies. They specialize in a lot of like Asian cinema, but again, it's all over the place. There's all kinds of Japanese films, tons of Spanish films, a lot of Spanish films, a lot of Italian films. And so when I did this big show on Mondo Macabre, I spent a decent amount of time going through my racks of movies, and I picked out all of my Mondo Macabre titles. And I did a big show where I kind of presented them all and talked about all of them. And a lot of the movies I've reviewed, but these movies are never really talked about, and I feel like they need to be talked about more, as much as possible, because they're just that damn good, and they're second to none, and they're just so entertaining, and the variety to the amount of the variety to all of the different kinds of films is just super, like, staggering and amazing. I kind of can't get enough of them. So when I did that show, I realized the next day, it was kind of funny. The next day after I did the big show on Macabre, I was, you know, I was in my room and I realized, oh wait, shit, I didn't grab that movie. And then the following day, I saw a couple other Mondo Macabre titles that I hadn't grabbed, and I forgot. So then I got them all together. I picked those ones, and then I've been on a kick lately of rewatching all of them. And a lot of the films I'd only seen once, and there's one that I'm getting to that I'm really excited. I'm kind of like whet my appetite with it. I'm gonna watch. I've been watching all, my way through all of these amazing films again, and I've been doing reviews on these films again, just because they deserve to be talked about more. And I have a brand new one that I haven't watched yet, so I'm going to finish up with that pretty soon, and I'm very excited about that. That's going to be a first time watch and a first time release. And again, it's at a point now where I just buy anything that's got a Mondo Macabre, any Mondo Macabre release I come across. I just automatically buy. So because I'm that confident in the quality of and the caliber of the weird shit that they put out. And today's show's on this kind of an extraordinary movie, In the Folds of the Flesh. This is a movie I bought probably about 2 years ago. But what an extraordinary movie! Wicked old school, 1971. It's an Italian giallo film. It's it's super bizarre. It's got such a great story and premise. It's kind of a complex narrative, super entertaining. It's very dark. It's pretty twisted. Deals with lots of different things. There it's centered on these girls that one of the girls gets assaulted and she ends up kind of basically losing her mind, and there's this kind of whole conspiracy going on as to who the culprit really is that committed these crimes, and then other people get pulled into it, and it's like a classic giallo film. And again, it like came out in 71, and just an extraordinary movie. It's super, you know, like a murder, Agatha Christie murder whodunit, classic classic story. It was directed by Sergio Bergozal, Bergazzelli, Bergazzelli, and the screenplay was written by Fabio D'Agosti. And it's hard to believe that this film came out in 70, and it just again it's Mono Macabre films, and in this film in particular, they're just so highly stylized, and they just they're just so cool. Like everything about them, the music, the whole like kind of aesthetic around these films, they're just like a little art piece. The thing that's really interesting that's occurring to me more and more with watching a lot of these kind of trashy movies, and again, it's very trashy and sleazy and really gory. It's pretty dark. There's a couple of pretty gruesome scenes as far as like beheadings and people getting their heads chopped off, and some pretty gnarly violence. But they just have this kind of art house quality. There's a lot of imagination, and again, it's kind of the Italian's version, the whole giallo style. It's kind of the Italian version of the classic kind of murder mystery story. The British Agatha Christie kind of vibe. It's kind of their version of that style, and there's there's so much color, richness, depth. There's like a melodrama vibe to the story, but then it's also very suspenseful. Kind of, it also has a like psychosexual theme, which is a theme of a lot of these films and giallo films, but really really cool. Beautiful addition here. I had never heard of this movie before I saw it. I totally bought it on a whim, strictly because even a few years ago I was at that point of anything that's got the Mono Macabro title on it or label on it, I'm gonna snatch it up because shit, it's so worth it. And yeah, I anybody who and the thing too that I was starting to say that really has has kind of changed for me around a lot of these films is it's interesting because a lot of these kind of low budget exploitation movies are like regarded as just kind of trash, just trash cinema and just total sleaze. So they kind of get dismissed as not really having any real substance and not any real merit, or that they're not even to a degree real movies because they don't have a big budget, they don't have named actors and a high production value and all of those things. But I and they are that I think all of these films are very much that. But to me, that's in my in my demented brain, that's an appeal. That really appeals to me. Just how trashy something can be, and sometimes I find you see an exploitation movie and it's just so trashy and technically terrible that you're just like amazed that it got made and that it gets a 4K or Blu-ray release and it's packed with hours of special features and it's so obscure and so such a movie that for all intents and purposes has been just completely forgotten. And I love all that shit. But with these titles, the Mono Macabre titles, what I'm feeling more and more is, of course, they are all of those things that I just mentioned, but they're kind of these art films. Like there's some really legitimately uh, beautiful moments as far as like if you're a fan of just the art form of movie making, it really has it really had a lot of these films have much more of that mm, kind of high art quality to them, even though they are super uber trash or trashy. They I can see a lot of these films, for people who are not into quote unquote just pure exploitation movies, slasher movies, or or what have you. I could see a lot of people, like the Giallo style especially, but a lot of these films from Mon Macabre, I could see those being a kind of a door opening to checking out the world of exploitation because I feel like a lot of these films, and especially this one in the Folds of the Flesh, it really can or it really does appeal to that audience, the kind of the art house crowd or people who watch like exclusively foreign films and things because these are essentially all foreign films, but they have such an artness to them, even though they are trash, that I can see it really appealing to people like that. Almost more so than like certain films maybe by like Lucio Fulci of where they are just so brutal. Like for instance, the New York Ripper or The House by the Cemetery. I mean, they're just those films have a niche, and I'm very much part of those films. But there's something else a little bit different about, or like a Herschel Gordon Lewis movie. There's something a little bit different about these films of where you could look at it as being a high art experience for as nasty as some of these films are and as raw as they are. They have that extra, um, I don't know, pizzazz about them. It's really interesting. And as I've been watching these movies again and exploring them again, it's that feeling has kind of come back to me more and more. It's really really interesting. I didn't. I would say that a few years back I wouldn't have thought that. I wouldn't have put these kinds of films on that pedestal. But that's one thing that's been really coming into my thoughts around them. So there was I've had a few times where I've had some friends over and we've watched some of these movies, and they didn't really hadn't really had much experience watching some of these kinds of movies. These were low budget exploitation movies, and some of them really pop, and I see it connects with people where they're like, huh, okay, this is fucking ridiculous, but I kind of love this. I can't stop watching. And I think the Mono Macabre films have even more of appeal to people who are open minded and again into they have a little bit more of a open mindedness to understanding cinema per se, and so these films could act as an introduction to the world of exploitation. So they're just amazing. They're just amazing, and the gamut, the styles, from the giallo through the crime drama aspect to the slasher vibe, um, the the sex exploitation angle, the surrealistic aspects of a lot of these films. It's the variety is just is amazing and awesome. And a lot of these films incorporate multiple genres a lot of the time, so they have you can't necessarily say that it's a pure horror film or a pure giallo film. Like they have a little bit of everything in them. This film, I would say, In the Folds of the Flesh, is definitely very, very much a giallo movie, but super awesome. I love this movie. Again, it was only my second time watching it. I can't recommend it enough. 1971, super cool. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.